The Sri Lankan government have declared a state of emergency here in Sri Lanka. So in this video, I'm going to explain to you what that means, what is happening right now, what is it like to be a tourist stuck in the worst financial crisis Sri Lanka has seen since 1948, and what it's like for the locals. I've just left my guest house because the owners have said that it's no problem for us to come out now. And one thing I just want to point out, that's just something that I've not seen. This is really weird. I've been staying here for a week now, and there's a real weird atmosphere to this place. But basically, the petrol station is just up there, just at the front of this queue. And they've completely run out of petrol, diesel, and there are armed guards there, and there's about 12 police officers. There's loads and loads of men with guns over there. I would go over there, point the camera, but I'm not here to give opinion, just telling you a fact. This is currently my life experience. I'm in Sri Lanka and we're in a state of emergency. But check this out. Look at all these buses and all these vehicles here. They're all waiting for diesel. They're all waiting for petrol. And there's probably hundreds and hundreds of vehicles here. No one's in any of the vehicles because it looks like the petrol's been run out for a long time, maybe all day. And all the businesses, it's like COVID has happened again. All the businesses are completely shut and they've put barricades up. I was just going out for my morning tea and I can see all the locals are lining up.
3 o'clock, they're coming.
3 o'clock in the afternoon. Wow. So it looks like the gas people are coming at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's not even 8 AM right now. And there's literally hundreds and hundreds of gas bottles all lined up. And I think this is because of some sort of gas shortage due to the government. Why are you lined up? Anyone speak English?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I can speak English.
What's the problem?
This is the problem, gas is very less. So people is their householding and hotel, all people waiting to come in gas.
Come and collect the gas?
Gas, yeah.
Wow. And
yeah, this is coming gas lorry.
Oh, there's a gas lorry there?
Lorry, yeah.
People start running.
People hop in this gas buy to take this.
And what's the problem? There's just no gas?
No gas.
Why?
Maybe Sri Lanka is dollar less.
Oh, because the rupee come down.
Government
can't import.
Not import, don't have dollar.
Oh, the government doesn't have the foreign currency to import the gas.
Yes.
Is that the same problem with the diesel?
Yeah, they are not can't buy ship.
Oh, the ships to bring them in?
Yeah.
Ah.
So this problem.
Wow.
Maybe 3 days, 4 days, no gas.
No gas?
No gas buy.
So how do people cook?
Yeah.
No cook?
Problem. Hotel problem, house problem, anywhere problem.
This is a huge problem.
Yeah, this is waiting. Maybe this 400 gas maybe coming.
Yeah.
That's having 1,000 people there.
Wow.
600 people go.
So there's not enough people. Not enough gas.
Maybe.
What time does the gas come?
Now coming.
Now.
You had a tea cup with coming. Tea cup. Tea.
What he say?
He asked you to drink tea. You
drink tea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What? Go with him?
Yeah. Tea making.
Oh wow! Thank you.
Okay. Help.
Yeah.
Come.
Okay, look at all these people here. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people all looking for their gas. They're all waiting for gas. There's not enough gas in the country of Sri Lanka. So it's a real big issue right now. This guy's just offering some tea. And he's one of the dudes that was waiting in the gas line. I was going out for some gas. Holy moly. I thought the line finished there. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people waiting for gas here. This gentleman's taking me for some tea.
Come.
You make some good tea, sir. Look at this. And not a single inch in between the bottles. Bottles and bottles and bottles of empty gas. And everyone just waiting. Because how are they going to cook? How are they going to cook without any of this gas? Good luck. But you see this? All the Sri Lankans are still happy, they're still smiling, they're still laughing. That's what I love about Sri Lankans. Even in, you know, tough times, always got the energy, always really happy. You find this a lot in Buddhist countries actually. You know, in times of hardship, people aren't crying and wailing. They are happy, you know, they're joking about their situation. Because if you don't laugh, you'll cry, right? Sri Lanka have very little foreign reserves. They don't have much dollar, basically. They don't have very much foreign currency. Now, Sri Lanka's rupee right now is experiencing hyperinflation. What that basically means is the value of the rupee is going down to the dollar. In fact, to everything, to food, to petrol, all these things, all these commodities. So what's happening is the Sri Lankans are losing money if they don't spend their money. When I first came here 6 weeks ago, £1 was 270 rupees. Now £1 is 390 rupees. That's absolutely insane. So you can see how the rupee is dropping to the foreign currency. It's causing a huge problem. Sri Lanka buys much of its oil, for example, from abroad. They ship it in, and they haven't even been able to pay the ships to come in to bring the oil. So due to that, there's been an oil, a petrol, diesel shortage in Sri Lanka for a while now. There's literally hundreds and hundreds of people queuing up every day at all the petrol stations. Many of the petrol stations don't even have petrol. They've got armed guards, they've got the army, the government security forces, the navy, all with their guns, and they're waiting outside the petrol stations, the fuel pumps, making sure that basically there's not massive fights and violence, because people are waiting literally the whole day. They're standing in 30 degrees Celsius all day just to get their petrol, and sometimes the petrol runs out as they've got there. So you can imagine that. The Sri Lankans have been quite unhappy. There's been some protests. Now, 3 days ago, there were protests in Colombo. There were protests throughout the country, but particularly in Colombo. Unfortunately, some violent protesters. I don't think there were so many, but the protests turned violent. There was a navy bus that was burnt. There were fires lit outside the president's accommodation, basically. And so the president has put a state of emergency in effect over the weekend. And what that means is that no one can leave the house. All the shops are shut. It means that people can be arrested for speaking against the government, basically, or inciting violence and protesting. Just commenting on what's happening, because I can't ignore the fact. If I carried on just making travel videos and just completely ignored what was going on, I think it would be a little bit disingenuous. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm not giving you any of my opinion because it's not the place or time for that right now. But what I will tell you is, to be a tourist in Sri Lanka right now, I've just walked away from all the hundreds of tourists, but there's hundreds and hundreds of tourists all on the beach. It's no issue. It seems to be absolutely no issue. I've been hiding away all day in my room, thinking that, oh, you know, I'll get into trouble if I come out. As soon as I came out, I walked past the petrol station full of police officers. Must have been 12 police officers and 5 armed guards from the army or the navy, some sort of military force. And they all saw me and they didn't even batter an eyelid. There aren't many Sri Lankans out. All the shops are shut, but all of the tourist areas, all of the tourist restaurants and things on the beach, they're just operating as usual. So this state of emergency is really weird. It seems to be only affecting the Sri Lankans, and the government seems to not want to affect the tourism industry. Literally, there's probably 1,000 tourists on this beach right now, all drinking wine, playing in the sea. It's really not affecting the tourists so much. The only effect that we had was that I stayed in all day, and the biggest effect was that there was a social media blackout. But that didn't last very long. That literally lasted about It's a matter of hours. It was supposed to last at least a day, but it was just a matter of hours. So social media ban has been removed. One big thing that's really affecting everyone, so the tourists as well, is or are the power cuts. The power cuts are really terrible right now. That's one thing I can tell you about. I've not been able to upload as many videos as I would have been able to upload because there's no power, so there's no internet, I can't charge my batteries and things like this, you know. So this is how it's really affecting the tourists, you know. It's mainly just the power cuts basically. But if you're not in a real budget accommodation place, then most places have generators, so it's not really affecting that so much. Literally all the big restaurants, all the big hotels, they all have generators. But for the locals, it's a completely different story. All the locals, well, there's hardly any locals here on the beach right now. The only people that I can see out are people lining up at petrol stations, basically trying to get some fuel. And the petrol stations completely run out of petrol. The vehicles have just parked all along the town, all down the main street of the town, on the side of the road. Some people aren't even in their vehicles. They're just waiting, I think, until tomorrow morning, 6 AM, when the curfew officially is lifted, so that they can then start their engine and carry on queuing for the petrol. But right now, the Sri Lankans are really suffering. Food is becoming really expensive. Fuel is becoming really expensive, and there's shortages. Not only are services and goods becoming more expensive, but the rupee is experiencing hyperinflation. So unfortunately, the people's economy right now is being hit twofold, and people are really unhappy. People are blaming the government. I'm not going to go into the politics of it, because if I was to comment on the politics of it, I'd be probably being a bit disingenuous, because I don't know enough to be talking on such a important issue. I'm just telling you how, I'm basically giving you an update on what's going on, why I've not uploaded so much, why I might have issues uploading for the foreseeable future. I'm not even sure if I'm going to be staying in Sri Lanka. If it gets worse, you know, if the government extends the state of emergency and everyone has to stay in their homes, then I'm not going to be able to make any content. So I'm not going to have any fun. You know, I'll have to leave. I'll probably end up going to India if it gets worse. If it doesn't get worse, it just stays like this, then I'm going to stay in Sri Lanka, because I feel like it's really important to show you how beautiful Sri Lanka is, to show you how amazing the locals are, how amazing the food is. Everything about Sri Lanka is amazing, and you should come and visit Sri Lanka. It's one of the best places to visit in Southeast Asia, for sure. For sure, it's one of my favorite places. And the more foreigners that come as tourists to Sri Lanka, the more foreign currency comes in, the more money for the locals. So in 2019, the tourism accounted for over 12% of Sri Lanka's national GDP, which is absolutely huge. You know, the levels of tourism are nowhere near what it was in 2019, unfortunately. So yeah, if I can convince, let's say if I can convince 100 people to come to Sri Lanka, even if they're just budget travelers, and they spend $1,000 over the course of 1 month to 2 months, $1,000, then that means I've brought in $100,000 into Sri Lanka just through my YouTube channel. That's $100,000 for the locals, you know? So I feel like it's really important that I actually stay in Sri Lanka and show you how amazing it is, show you the local life. I've hardly even visited even 15% of the places I want to visit. I've basically just been chilling out in the south for a while, really enjoying some time surfing, you know, basically going surfing whenever there's a power cut, which is all the time right now. But I want to go up north. I want to go everywhere. I want to show you how amazing Sri Lanka is. So I will stay here if it doesn't get any worse. There were a few people commenting on my post from today, said, oh, you need to get out, blah, 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 blah. I appreciate your concern, I really do, from my heart. I really appreciate your concern for me and for Molly. But I don't think, all today I was hyped up thinking that, damn, this is really going to affect the tourists. But look, It's getting dark now, but there's so many tourists out here. And in the town, everything is shut, but the only restaurant we could find was a pizza place. And that's because they don't serve locals, they serve tourists. So it looks like tourists are going to be left alone, basically. It looks like you can still come here and you can still holiday, you can still travel. So far, I'll update you if that changes, but the police are not interfering with the tourism, which I think, personally, I think that's going to be something that could really help Sri Lanka. You know, you don't want to get rid of the tourists. You don't want to scare the tourists off. You know, like I say, in 2019 it was over 12% of the national GDP, and I know they want to get that back up. So I'm pretty sure the government doesn't want to do this, but I think it was down to the protests in Colombo specifically. They turned violent, and I think the government was just a bit scared. They wanted to maybe nip that in the bud, so to speak. And so they put a social media blackout and a curfew for the weekend, and that's gonna end at 6 a.m. this morning, coming tomorrow. But I think that's why we've gone into a state of emergency. I don't think it's going to carry on. I think that'll be it. I think the government just was a bit, you know, worried, and they just wanted to put out the fire quickly, you know. I can understand people being really, really angry. I can understand people blaming governments for things, you know. But when you're violent, it does open up the door for more serious intervention by governments, you know. So I think that's basically what happened. That's all I'm going to say on that matter. Sri Lanka's still beautiful. The sunsets are still beautiful, you know. The Sri Lankans are still smiling at me, and it's still an amazing place to come and travel. So maybe wait for a week or so just to see how it progresses. But if it doesn't get any worse, it's not really affecting tourists right now. Like I say, the main thing that's affecting me as a tourist, and it's affecting all the Sri Lankans too, are the power cuts, because I'm in budget accommodation, so they never have any generators, and I eat in local budget restaurants, and quite often they don't have any generators. So that's the main issue, is the lack of the power, really. I don't feel like there's any danger to any tourists or anything like this. No one's targeting any tourists. It's nothing to do with tourists in any way. So that's all I've got to say. It was a bit of an update, really. I wanted to share this with you because it's part of my life experience right now. Been locked up in my hotel room all day, or my guest house all day, just kind of worrying, thinking that I'm gonna have to leave Sri Lanka, like, now. But then I came out onto the beach. I saw that the pizza restaurant was open, and every restaurant on the beach is open, and it doesn't look like it's going to really affect the tourists. So I'm going to stay here for now. If it changes, I'll let you know. Love, peace and prosperity, and yeah, viva democracy, I suppose.